All right, you made it to the last page of the study guide. All of the problems on this page can be solved using either the geometric mean, you can set up a proportion, or you can use the Pythagorean theorem. So there are often multiple ways to find the correct answer, and I'll show you a couple different ways, but I won't do each question more than once. So in number 24, you are given this measure of the short leg of the small triangle is 3, and then you are given the long leg of the medium triangle and the altitude, and you're supposed to work backwards and find x. And I will show you more than one way to do this one since the algebra can be confusing, but we said that the height of this triangle, or the altitude, is going to be the geometric mean of these two numbers. And we said to find the geometric mean, we multiply them and take the square root. So we could multiply 3 times x, which is 3x, and take the square root to get 4. And this sets up an algebraic equation to solve. So I could undo the function of taking the square root by squaring both sides, because those are inverse operations. When I square the square root of 3x, I'm just left with 3x. When I square 4, I get 16. And then I could divide both sides by 3. So we get 16 thirds for x, and I didn't say in the directions, I'm just realizing, but you could leave your answer as 16 thirds, or we could approximate it as a decimal to 3 decimal places. So that ends up being 5.3 repeating, or we could say 5.333. That is just the geometric mean way of solving this problem. There is another way to solve this problem though, and you could set up a proportion. So we could look at the small triangle, and its short leg is 3, and its long leg is 4. And then we could look at the medium triangle, and its short leg is 4, and its long leg is x. So if you choose to use a proportion here, we could write the proportion 4 over 3 equals x over 4, or you could compare 4 to x and 3 to 4. So 4 over 3 equals x over 4. You still end up getting 3x equals 16 when you cross multiply. So even if you solve it this way, you would do this last step and get x is 5 1/3. All right, number 25. I would recommend drawing out our small, medium, and large triangles. So for the small triangle, we have a short leg of 6 and a long leg of y. For the medium triangle, make sure if you draw these, you kind of keep track of where your short legs are. We have a short leg of y, a long leg of 18, a hypotenuse of x. And for the large triangle, we have a short leg of unknown, we don't need that one, a long leg of x. And then to get the hypotenuse, I'm going to add 6 and 18. So 6 plus 18 is 24. You'd think I could do that in my head faster. Now, if you just look at the parts of the triangle that you might need, so if I look at where x is, I see x here on this hypotenuse, and then I also see that I have an x over here as a long leg. So I don't have any x's on the small triangle, so we don't need that one right now. But if I'm going to solve for x, I would need this other hypotenuse of the large triangle and this other long leg of the medium triangle. So now I could set up my proportion, either x over 18 equals 24 over x, or I could compare from the medium to the large triangle. Either way is correct. So I'm going to just do x over 18 equals 24 over x. Be careful here that you maintain this order. So blue over orange equals blue over orange, medium to large. No matter how you set this up, your cross product should be x squared, and then the product of 24 and 18. And 24 times 18, let's see, my calculator is not on the screen, but I'm going to do that, and I get 432. So x squared is equal to 432. Take the square root of both sides. Since it's a triangle, we only need the positive square root. We get 20.785. So if you're following along with me in your calculator, Remember that 6 is going to tell us to round that 4 up to a 5. All right, so we found x. Now we need to find y. And if you look on this where we see a y, we see that we have a y over here as a long leg. And then I've got a y over there on my medium triangle. Oops, I was looking for something to color code this with. So I've got a y over here as a short leg, and I know the short leg of the small. So I don't need the large triangle at all for this one. There's no y on the large. So I'm just going to look at these two triangles. So I can now set up my proportion. Y over 6 equals 18 over y. So I'm going orange to red, orange to red. You could also do y over 18 equals 6 over y. Regardless, your cross products should be y squared equals, and then 18 times 6. So 18 times 6 is 108. Take the square root of both sides. Y is approximately 10.392. All right, so we found x and y on that one. Moving on to number 26. Again, I recommend drawing out our triangles. Our small triangle, we're going to have a short leg of 4, a hypotenuse of x. And if it helps you, feel free to, like as you're looking for these triangles, I know this isn't how I highlighted them in class, but if it's helpful, you could highlight each triangle. So then our medium triangle is this one. Our medium triangle has a short leg, we don't know, hypotenuse of y, a long leg of 7. And then our large triangle, so now looking at the entire picture, has a short leg of x, a long leg of y, and the hypotenuse of 7 plus 4. So a hypotenuse of 11. All right, so now we're going to, again, we can solve these all by using a proportion. I'm going to use a proportion to do this. So if you look at where x is, let's say we want to go in order. Now my highlighting over here is not going to correspond with what I just highlighted in the picture, but x is a hypotenuse. And if I look on my medium triangle, there is no x, so I don't need my medium one right now. But if I look at my large triangle, I have a whole number over here to compare x to. On my large triangle, x is on the short leg. So if I go back to my small, I'm going to need that 4 from the short leg. So now we could set up our proportion. I'm going to do it over here. So x over 4 equals 11 over x. And as long as your cross products are x squared and 44, you've done this correctly. So we get x squared is equal to 44, and then we know we'll take the square root of both sides. The square root of 44 is 6.633 approximately. So x is approximately 6.633. Okay, now to find y, if you take a look at where y is in our diagram, I see that I've got a y that is a long leg, and then I see there's no y's on my small, so I don't need my small triangle for this proportion, but I do have a y over here on the hypotenuse, and then I've got another number on my long leg I can use. So if we look at what we're going to compare here, if I compare y in this long leg, I'm going to need 11 for the hypotenuse and the other long leg of y. So we could set this up and we could say 7 over y equals y over 11. And again, your proportion might be a little different than mine, but as long as your cross products are y squared and 77, you set up your proportion correctly. If you get like 7y equals 11y, then there's a problem. All right, so take the square root of 77. We get approximately 8.775 because we're going to round that to 3 decimal places. So y is approximately 8.775. 7.75. All right, now, I realize that all of the ones I've shown you so far, I haven't shown you any examples with the Pythagorean theorem, but anytime you figure out two or more sides of the right triangle, you can always use the Pythagorean theorem. I would caution you to make sure that if you are finding a leg, remember that's when we subtract c squared minus a squared or c squared minus b squared, not adding our squares together. I'll try to do an example below using the Pythagorean theorem. All right, so in number 27, we're just finding x. Now you can set up your proportions again, but we said this is the example that really stands out when I think we easily recognize that x is going to be the geometric mean of 9 and 11. So you can set up the proportions just like we did in number 24, 25, and 26, or we could remember that the geometric mean, so 9 times 11, take the square root, will give us x. So that becomes the square root of 99 equals x, and then when we go to approximate that in our calculator, I know it'll be really close to 10. We get 9.94. Well, we get a 9 here, but the 8 tells us to round up. So it's actually going to become 9.950. So x is approximately 9.950. Now, if you don't like doing it that way, if you set up your proportions, you can solve for x that way as well. I would draw my triangle